Oh, hi there guys, it's Simon here, Ario's Pipe Smoker, and welcome to episode 2 of this year's whole leaf tobacco processing adventure. Yeah, it's probably going to be a relatively short video, and I'm going to just show you how I rehydrate the leaves to get them malleable enough to work with without ending up with loads of dry powder, which obviously you don't want. And I'll also cover de-stemming. So quite simply, let me put the pipe down and get back to that in a minute. This is a kilo of orange Virginia. And I don't know if you can hear, it's a bit rustly sounding, and that's, I don't know if you can see there's bits of tobacco will flake off. So obviously if I start de-stemming this, I'm going to end up with lots of bits and powder and dust, so you kind of need to hydrate it. The best way I found is not to really moisten the tobacco directly. So we have the bag here. I have my now a lot of people on the internet will say use distilled water. That's probably fine. I just use my tap water because I'm connected to a mountain spring. There's no chemicals like fluoride or chlorine in it. Once a year they go and throw a sack of chlorine in there just to clean the pipes out, and a couple of days later we're back to clean water again. And also the water here is, oh god, I hope I get this the right way round. I think it's a soft water, as in there's not really any dry residue, there's not really much mineral content to it. For example, I have an electric kettle that I've used here for the last 3 or 4 years, and there's no lime scale in there, there's no staining from from the dry residue content, mineral content of the water. So I prefer to use mountain spring water because it's got some vitality in there. So what I do is, quite simply, I'm right-handed. Hopefully we're going to see this. I want to manhandle this tobacco very minimally at this stage, because it is just going to break and create bits. So what I do is I actually just, I don't know if we can see this, I spray the inside of the bag. And you can see we've got some water droplets, and this is set to a very fine mist. And I'll turn it over and do the other side. And I'm going to seal the bag up, make it airtight again. And the well, it's not a theory. What's going on here is I'm just raising the relative humidity inside the bag. It's quite a warm sunny day here, and so now I'm just going to use the sunlight as my heat source. If it's not sunny where you are and you try this can quite easily be next to an electric radiator, on top of a water boiler. Just some kind of heat source just speeds it up. So I'm going to pop it inside a black plastic bag so it absorbs more heat, and leave it on the table like this. I'll check it in half an hour. I mean, it really depends on the how dry the tobacco is initially. This might take half an hour, it might take several hours. I'll come back to it in a bit. If all the water beads have disappeared and it still feels a bit crunchy, I'll repeat process. I'll give it another misting. And then what I'll generally do, when it's about when it feels about right, as in it's workable. Uh, and generally when it's workable, it's probably a little bit damper than it is when you smoke it. It's a little bit higher than that. But what I'll do is when it's about right, I then leave it sealed up and I leave it overnight in my basement, so it's quite cool. Because as we know, when atmosphere or air is warm, it can carry the water actually in the air itself. You know, the water molecules are suspended in the air, and when it's cold, cold air doesn't hold as much water, so the humidity is lower. So by putting the bag somewhere cold overnight, it means all of the moist air inside the bag, the air cannot hold this moisture anymore, so the tobacco leaves will absorb this moisture, and there will be a bit of condensation inside the bag. And so the next day I'll open the bag, probably take the tobacco out, air the bag to get rid of any water droplets that may be in the bag due to the condensation, then reload the bag, seal it up, and I'll keep an eye on it for a day or two, make sure there's no like wet spots, and you know, give it a fluff around. So that's pretty much the hydration process. I guess just to recap, rather than spray water on the leaves, just try and put the leaves somewhere with a very high relative humidity, somewhere warm, and it will do its thing. Oh. So I'm slightly aware of where the sun is and the shadows. So I'm just making this little Meerschaum Bulldog. It's kind of like my tasting pipe. The drawer is a little bit restricted in there, which is kind of quite good for smoking some of these, sampling some of the whole leaf tobacco, because it just a little bit of a restriction isn't a bad thing, because it's pretty ropey, to be honest. So you know, anything that's going to help keep that bowl from getting too fired up is a good thing. And I'm just smoking. Yesterday I destemmed the Kentucky Fire and the sun cured Kentucky, and today I'm just smoking between the two to see what the differences are. I think this possibly something has been. So I'm going to come this side. I've got a feeling I'm in the shadow because the sun's there. I've got a feeling there's been something lost in translation here, because the fire Kentucky is not dark fired. Because obviously I'm buying it off a German company. I have no idea where they're getting it from, so they've translated into German and I've translated from German into English. The sun cured Kentucky is just that. It's air cured, well, sun cured, air cured. I think the fire Kentucky, I don't think it's fired in the sense of dark fire. I think it probably means it's been flue cured like a Virginia, whereas rather than be out in the sun for some months, it's just put into a big barn and they blast hot air into it to cure it this way. I suspect this is what the fire cured Kentucky is in this case. Conversely, the bag of what we would probably call dark fired Kentucky has been the description of it from Germany is extra smoked, or very smoked Kentucky. And so I'm just kind of trying to work through the language barriers slightly. There is a bit of difference between the sun cured and the flue. I think it's flue cured Kentucky. There are subtle differences. And to be honest, it's not wholly as unpleasant as I thought it would be. It does leave that fresh, yeah, sort of residue in your mouth a little bit, and interestingly enough, the notes I'm getting from it, I would kind of describe as almost a little bit floral. Almost, yeah, a kind of slightly floral, not really perfumey. When I was having a smoke of this earlier, I kind of thought to myself, oh, I'm getting these sort of like florally notes. And I haven't really smoked any Lakelands. I can't get them here in France. But I believe a lot of them are quite Kentucky heavy. And I did make the association in my mind that these sort of floral dark Kentucky notes would lend themselves very well to you know, like I guess a Lakeland topping of like rose, geranium, this kind of floral. I keep saying floral. I can't think of any other intelligent words to say, but I think you get the idea. Because what I'm doing is, after I've done this de-stemming, the next stage is going to be casing the tobacco. And the casing, I don't want to go into it too deeply here because that will be the subject of the next video, but casing is not to flavour the tobacco. It's just basically adding some form of sugared water, whether it's white sugar, molasses, honey, to the leaves, just to bring them back to life, alter the pH levels of the smoke, various other scientific things which I'm not going to go into now. But before I move on to the casing stage, I want to have a few bowls of every type of tobacco just to see what comes into my mind, because I think the general consensus is that, like Virginias and lighter tobaccos, you'll tend to use a white sugar, and maybe you'll put a bit of lemon peel in there, or just like something that's going to complement and bring out the natural flavour of the tobacco. It's very much like adding a bit of salt and pepper on your dinner, you know. And so before I get into the casing recipes, I just really want to get a little bit familiar of the natural qualities of the leaves. Yeah, I'm not going to talk of casing anymore because otherwise it will be a spoiler alert for the next video, possibly the next video. So, just quickly, I guess I'm just going to show you de-stemming leaves. So get some leaves. These are just some big Virginia leaves. And you can see I can screw these up, they're not breaking. They're probably a little bit too moist to smoke in this stage, but that's kind of what we want. And fundamentally it's really simple. Obviously the leaf has a bottom side, I mean, it would have been attached to the plant like that. And on examination, it becomes obvious to see which side this big central stem is growing on. Let's get another one. I mean, you can see the central stem on the top side, but it's a lot more pronounced on the bottom side. I don't know how well this is coming out on camera, but it's quite apparent. I have to swap sides again because I'm right-handed. So you see some people with knives and scissors. It's not really necessary. I find we're not worried about these lateral stems, it's only this middle one we want to get rid of. And so I kind of pinch it somewhere near the top of the leaf. I don't know if we can see this. And I always start at the thin end and go to the thick end, travel towards the thick end, because then it breaks off the lateral veins a lot easier. Depending on the leaf, I mean, I did that one as a slow peel. Some, burleys, orientals, it's exactly the same technique fundamentally, but depending on how thick the leaf is, how supple the leaf is, it's quite time consuming. These Virginia leaves, you can do it a lot faster if you get it started and basically pinch here. Oh, obviously that one didn't quite work. Let's try and get it started again. You can just pull it like this. It's a lot faster. Now, this leaf's a bit dry actually, but for demonstration purposes it's fine. As you can see, you get quite a pile of stalks. I don't have a good set of scales actually, because it'd be interesting to see how much weight gets lost in the stalks. But I'd estimate it's probably got to be 20%, possibly 30% of the overall weight is left in the stalks. Let me come to the other side again. So that that's fundamentally it. And now it's you see, it's not necessary to get the central stalk out right at the top, as long as it's no thicker than the side veins coming off. There's a good example. Okay, remove the central stalk, and it's still held together at the top. It doesn't really matter. Just as a quick side note, I've read on a few articles on the internet that back in the day of tobacconists actually processing their own tobacco from leaf, and in the days where the sailors could buy whole leaf tobacco and they would bundle it up to take on their voyages, they would keep all of these stalks because the tobacconists would buy these back. They'd put them on the scales and issue you with a store credit or, bit of money or tobacco, or however it worked. And then these stalks would get dried, powdered up, and would be, I don't know if it'd be the main component, because I'm not an expert, but basically it's one of the base ingredients for making snuff. They'd powder up all of this stalk material and add flavourings. But yeah, well, that's an interesting side note. I don't think snuff production is something I'm going to get involved in this year, but some people might find that little snippet of anecdotal storytelling interesting. Right, I think that's probably it for this video, guys. Any questions, obviously I'll answer them in the comments down below. I'm going to keep checking on this bag as the day progresses until the leaves are comparable to this. Nice, don't break but not wet, and then I can destem the orange Virginias. Okay, well thanks for watching, guys. I'm going to sign off. It's getting a bit hot out here for doing tobacco. It's drying as fast as I'm talking. Alright then, guys, thanks for your time, and see you in probably a day or two's time. And I think the subject of the next video will probably broach rudimentary casing, I should imagine. Various reasons for it, but I'll explain them all in the next video so you can keep each video reasonably concise and on subject. Okay then guys, thanks for your time, signing off, and see you in a few days now.